But you mentioned something about career politicians like Biden and Kamala and Newsom all over the news right now. We're seeing the ICE raids in Los Angeles. You live in Los Angeles. What do you make of Karen Bass, Gavin Newsom, and these leftist failures we're seeing? Because no major city should allow people to run amok and burn cars and take over freeways, Zach.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so fortunately, I actually don't live in Los Angeles anymore. I
Oh,
am,
good.
yeah. So I grew up in Ventura, California, which is about
Hmm.
an hour. Well, now with traffic, it's about an hour and a half north of LA. And I'm here now. I just welcomed my son into the world out here because my family's still all here.
Congratulations.
So thank you, I appreciate that. But listen, I lived in LA for 15 years, and obviously, I still frequent it and have a lot of friends there, and there's still business to do in Los Angeles. Um, but even as a native Californian who loves California, I saw the writing on the wall a really long time ago because when you have leadership in states like California and cities like Los Angeles who ultimately I don't think really care about
Mm.
the people, their constituents. They care about the power that they can hold and wield and the money that can be made through their position, which is exactly what's gone down. And this has happened in California and New York and Illinois, Chicago. I mean, if you just look at the cities that have the highest crime rates, the highest level of homelessness, the most insanity going on, these are typically democratically held states and cities. Now, this is not an indictment of the everyday voting Democrat, right? Like, I
Hmm.
think this is one of the problems that we're running into is that we have all been pitted against each other, the voters, the people, and we have got to stop doing that. I don't have a problem with Democratic voters. I have a problem with Democratic leadership who actually I think doesn't even care about their voters.
Hmm.
And what's happening in Los Angeles right now is absolute insanity. We have millions of illegal immigrants who illegally came here. Okay, now
Hmm.
I have a lot of empathy for a lot of those folks. I understand that many of those people are not serial rapists and murderers and wrong evildoers. They're people that were genuinely looking for a better life. And yet, there is a legal way, a proper way, a fair way for them to come into this country and assimilate into this country. Because if you want all of the benefits of the United States and yet you hate the United States and you go and you wave your nationals, a lot of people are in LA right now waving these like Viva la Mexico flags. Listen,
Hmm.
I love Mexico. My brother-in-law is Mexican. I love him. I love his family. I have lots of Mexican friends. But if you want to go, could you imagine if, as Americans, we were going into Mexico and taking advantage of their illegally going there and taking advantage of all that they have to offer, and then trying
Hmm.
to burn down Mexico City, waving American flags? We'd be shot in the streets, dead, not with rubber
Hmm.
bullets, not with tear gas. Like that would be. And we would never do that because that would not be respecting that country. So I find it really not just fascinating, but really sad that a lot of these folks don't understand that. You cannot go and want all of the benefits of that country and despise it. Like
Hmm.
that doesn't work. And so what's now happening, Karen Bass, for her to encourage people, literally encourage people to interfere with what ICE is trying to do, which and let me be clear about this. I think that we must find a better balance. Same thing with with Doge, with ICE, with any of it, right? We need to be able to do it as effectively and as surgically as possible. Are there people who are being detained and deported that might actually, like, there are few but very few cases of people who actually are here legally and they got looped into the whole thing and they got taken out, and we those people should not be dealing with that. They should not be being detained. But that's very few people in a much larger group, and that larger group of illegal immigrants, the lots and lots of them are in fact criminals that have come here, not just criminals because they came here illegally, but have a criminal past and record and continue to do crime in this country, including, as you know, there are multiple myriad cases of murders, rapes, and murders that have happened in this country. And I don't see a lot of these protesters showing up and being like, "Hey, wow, we should be upset about that too." It's like they don't even
Hmm.
care. It's like, well, that's just what happens. It's like, that's just what happens? No, that's not what happens. And as Americans, we should not be tolerating this at all.
No, absolutely. People don't want another Laken Riley, another Jocelyn Nungari, right? And if we hadn't had the failed open border policies the last few years, if people have had to come in and get vetted, we wouldn't have criminals and rapists running amok on the streets right now. And people voted for President Trump because he was talking about doing deportations. President Trump
Right.
ran on mass deportations. The New York Times had a poll. A majority of Americans supported mass deportations. I know we're not supposed to say that out loud. So what we're seeing is a president who's actually following through on what he said he was going to do. And I think that's making Democrats' minds go crazy. So it doesn't sound like you think Gavin Newsom has a prayer in 2028 because these are the best campaign ads for Republicans. These pictures and these videos. Do you think Gavin has a chance, Zach?
Brother, I don't know. I mean, listen, I mean, the rational, logical mind in me would say absolutely not.
No.
But how is he in office right now?
Right.
How did he not get when they
The
they
fire
put
hydrants,
no. Well, yes, all of that for sure. But no,
the recall.
the recall, when they recalled him, how did and I've heard some weird things about maybe there was some screwy things going on
Mhm.
with some of that and the voting and whatever. I don't know. I mean, that's a whole other conversation. But
Right.
listen, unfortunately, as a this weird duopoly that we live in and one that we should not be living in. I think that we should have a far different system of political system where we have more options. Some people say ranked choice. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of different things that we could be talking about, but we've all been pitted against each other so poor, so badly. And so Democratic voters, even when they're looking at somebody like Gavin Newsom, they go, yeah, well, but at least he's our guy, even though
Right.
he's failed over and over and over again, even though Karen Bass has failed over and over and over again. It's so obvious when Gavin Newsom is going and telling everybody in California, you got to stay in your home and you got to mask up and you got to go put these vaccines in you. Never mind that I'm going to go have my private parties at French Laundry and have dinners,
Hmm.
and then he gets caught and he's like, oh, he's making all these excuses. They tell us what we should do, and then they don't even live by their own rules. That's the
Hmm.
man that these voters put into office. One would hope that that would have been the end of it, but no, because the propaganda is real. It's big, man, and they have so much money to put into commercials, and they will do everything they can to keep twisting people's minds. I hope that voters in California do not forget every single failure that this administration has put them through. And it's been many, many failures. And this is just the most recent of them. But of course, there's going to be a lot of voters that think right now that what's going on is actually good. It's good that we are intercepting ICE and making sure that they're not deporting these good people, that even if they came here illegally, they're still good people and we need to treat them with dignity. Listen, as somebody who believes that we're all children of God, I actually agree that we should all be treated with some amount of dignity, right? But you're also dealing with full-on criminals. You can't just be like, "Oh, it's all well. Let's just talk. Let's just see if
Hmm.
they're going to change their ways, and maybe they're going to be good, people that are putting back into our community." You can't reason with people like that on that level. But I will
Hmm.
also say, even if this wasn't a matter of actual criminals and murderers and rapists and all that stuff, one of the most insidious things that has gone on is we have actual American citizens in places like Western North Carolina, for example, that
Hmm.
were devastated. People in Lahaina, Hawaii, devastated. Every single time, Americans, not illegal immigrants to America, but actual Americans who have grown up their entire life in the United States, paying taxes their entire life, are left with a check for $700, and yet USAID and all of these other little Machiavellian little
Hmm.
agencies and what are taking our tax dollars and putting these immigrants into hotels and giving them debit cards and cell
Hmm.
phones and traveling them around the country on our dime while we are leaving our own citizens hanging out to dry. That is insanity. So these are
Hmm.
the things that we have to remember when it comes to when we're doing these Doge cuts and these USAID cuts, and when we're also trying to ask ourselves, well, how does this work with illegal immigration? Like that can't be the way. We have got to take care of. We must. And if you were to ask any Democratic voter, if you were to just bring it down to the most localized level and say, okay, let me ask you a question. It's your own home. just forget about the country, for example, but the country is all of our home, right? But let's talk
Mhm.
about just your home. Would you want anyone, particularly people that have a criminal record, to just have carte blanche access to
Right.
your home, to just be able to move in whenever they want? Of course, they would say, absolutely not. I don't want that. Well, now just expand that out because
Right.
that's what's going on. If you don't treat this country as if it's just a larger version of what you are trying to protect in your own life, then really what you're saying is, well, it's good for thee, but not for me.
Mhm.
I've seen these like kind of viral comedy videos where people go knocking on doors and they go, "Hey, we have a petition for these illegal immigrants and they want to be able to be in our country." And they go, "Oh yeah, I'll sign that." They go, "Great. Well, we got 10 of them right here. Can they move in?" And they go, no, we can't." And they don't know what to do because they're more than willing to pass the buck, pass the buck, pass the buck. If you're
Mhm.
not willing to do it yourself, then don't expect everyone else in this country to be footing the bill for that. That's just not
Mhm.
acceptable.
Well, that's what was happening with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. All these Democrats and especially Senator Chris Van Hollen, we have to bring him back. What's happening is wrong. We have to keep these criminal MS-13 gang members on the street. Mark my words. All of these elite Democrats sitting around in their fancy homes, they do not want MS-13 moving in next door. They wouldn't want their apartment complex being taken over by illegal migrants, but it's the rules for thee, not for me. They want to sit in their ivory towers and preach and proselytize to all of us how we should live and what we should be okay with. And Americans have said enough. So everything you have said, Zach, is music to our ears and what we talk about all the time.